It's another Friday show, and you're listening to the Good Citizen Radio Show on Inspiration FM. The show is brought to you by CSR in Action and sponsored by ACT Foundation, aka AC Trust Foundation, which is a grant-making organization for the African region. ACT's focus areas are health education, entrepreneurship, and leadership. And we actually had ACT on the show last week, Friday. We had the CEO, Asayi Elile, come to speak to us about their annual dialogue on impact. And it held on Thursday at the Intercontinental Hotel. And it was really, really well attended. I have never attended any non-profit event that was so well organized. And the speakers literally killed it. The panel session was very inspiring. It's interesting that somehow they did manage to touch upon entrepreneurship, even though it was a non-profit event, because I know that non-profits have to think like entrepreneurs these days. Everybody's talking about sustainability, so it's not just about waiting for grants up and down the place. As Nigerian social media say up and down. You can't just be waiting for grants up and down. You literally have to start thinking innovatively. And one of the panelists actually mentioned the menace. One of the grant-giving organizations that was on the panel talked about the menace of drug abuse and the detriment to youth empowerment. I found that really interesting. And, you know, she was saying that the next big challenge as well is gambling. And I was like, wow, in Nigeria? So, you know, we did say that we're taking a break from entrepreneurship 2 weeks ago. So we briefly touched on ACT, and we're back to entrepreneurship again this week. And we're talking about creating jobs through entrepreneurship. So it was interesting to me when I listened to that conversation, and I'm thinking, okay, we're talking about creating jobs and everything, and we're not talking about some of these social issues that can have a detrimental effect on job creation. And back on the show was our guest from 2 weeks before. We have Abosede, Madame la Directrice.
Thank you for having me, Becca. I'm glad to be back.
So it's Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, LSETF,
yeah,
right? Okay.
Yeah.
And she's back on the show to, you know, for us to have this discussion. So basically, we know that small businesses are oftentimes the backbone of any economy. And if we're talking about development in the truest form, we have to think about small businesses because of the jobs that they create for the everyday person. And entrepreneurship, we've said, you know, it's ways of creating opportunities, and has been described as the capacity and willingness to design and manage a business venture along with any of its risks. Is a move from business ownership, mama, small shop on the side.
Mom and pop shops, like they call them.
Yes, you know, and for us who are entrepreneurs as well, there's always this fear of being called one-man business, you know. That's the final diss. Say, it's a one-man business, don't mind them, that's how they behave. And so people are thinking about setting up structure and doing business in such a way that it outlasts them, doing business in such a way that they comply to the rules and regulations of the society. And we know that we're very hardworking people. We know that the jobs have been created in some way or the other, but we also know that we still have a huge amount of unemployment and underemployment.
Yes.
So today we're going to delve further into entrepreneurship and really just continue the conversation from where we stopped. And say, okay, what really can we do as Nigerians to create those business opportunities that we want? So what do you think, really? I mean, I have heard oftentimes that it's said that many businesses are not necessarily the product of long-term planning. I've heard that it's only 25% in Silicon Valley, it's only 25% of businesses. Yes, they make it with all the fancy business plans and everything. So what really is the challenge?
So, I mean, if you start to look at entrepreneurship as a vehicle for job creation, The first thing that happens in Nigeria is because of the high rate of unemployment, what we have are really emergency entrepreneurs.
Right.
And not necessarily people who are going into entrepreneurship because they actually found a problem they want to solve or a need they want to meet. Most of us are going into entrepreneurship for survival. And so it comes back to the fact that you need skills, regardless of the fact that you want to be an entrepreneur. Now, entrepreneurship, I have to clarify, is actually a career path. You know, growing up, they gave us only 2 choices, but that's not the truth. There are many choices, and entrepreneurship is one of those choices. So I'll give you a practical example. If you've gone to school and earned a degree as a doctor, all right, if you went to work in a hospital, you're an employee. So you are going through the employment career path. But if you decided and you had capacity and capital to start a hospital, then you are an entrepreneur. So it's very important to, first of all, understand what entrepreneurs do. So as far as I'm concerned, entrepreneurs solve problems.
Right.
They create value and they meet people's needs. I think that if we start from here, a lot of people can then go into entrepreneurship when there are no jobs, all right? Because if you're truly meeting a need, then obviously you would even create demand and have the need to grow, expand, and create jobs. So why we mostly end up as one-man, two-man businesses is that we actually go into entrepreneurship for survival. So you don't put in place the structures, as you were saying, to actually be able to accommodate growth and expansion that leads to job creation.
Right, but boss, must all businesses be big?
No.
I know businesses that have been 2-person businesses and that have done very well.
Yes.
So why? Do we really create jobs because we feel the need to create jobs, or do we create, businesses that thrive?
Let's create value. Let's create value. So if you were a 2-man business and you were doing extremely well, if we're being honest, you will outgrow your extremely well, okay? Now, I don't mind if you birth another business. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Right.
So you're a 2-man business, you're doing extremely well.
But you're providing opportunities for your value chain.
Thank you very much. So you then outgrow maybe a certain aspect of the business, or your business actually catalyzes a new type of need or demand, or exposes something new that people need. And then you kind of, maybe you have built capacity for people who can then go and set up their own business. But if you start to talk about small businesses, I don't think we should start talking about that when we haven't built generational businesses.
Right.
Exactly. So we need to be able to prove that we can do it, and it's a choice to stay small. But I feel like, unfortunately, today, it's not such a choice to stay small. It's the fact that people will argue that there's no enabling environment, or they lack the capital, resource, this could be human or financial, to expand or to grow. And I think that that's the conversation. And what I often tell people is the problem is not often finance first, but it's information. It's a knowledge gap.
I was actually going to come to that.
Exactly. So, yeah.
I was actually going to come to that because I remember very clearly when we started CSR in Action, and it was literally an idea. And those who know me, and I'm not telling you guys to be like that, those who know me know that I start things and then I clean up after me. I said, don't worry, I'll clean up the mess after me, and there was really no funding. There was really, there was one room office space eventually. And then it grew incrementally, like over time.
Yeah.
Obviously, that was because it was a service business. But then even for service businesses, people tend to stop and say, oh no, I don't have money to start. I have all these ideas. And I say, why don't you start small? So what would you say is an essential for anybody seeking to be an entrepreneur?
So I think it's very important to clarify the value you're going to add. I think it's very important. So when you started CSR in Action, the opportunity that you saw was, businesses should become more conscious and more socially responsible. However, there is a gap as to how they should go about this stuff.
Absolutely.
And there's even lack of understanding and information as to how they should go about this.
Right.
And that's the problem that you were trying to solve. And that was the value you were trying to add.
Right.
Now, when you went to make a pitch, for example, you already had that information. So what makes you the value-adding organization? You had the information that you went to share. And when they saw that, well, CSR in action can actually close this gap for us that we have, then they hired you, right? So the essential thing is that you must know what value are you adding, right? Because if you understand that, then you understand what you need, all right, to start to do whatever it is that you want to do. And that's how you know you can start small, because everybody must start from somewhere.
Yes.
Exactly.
So another thing that actually came out as you were speaking is the matter of innovation. Oftentimes people wait for something to start, and everybody wants to just pour into it. If the reigning thing is selling trainers, oh boy, everybody rushes into that market. Again,
because you feel like somebody has done the hard work, and you can see now there's a market. So
jump into it and do the same thing, and then you're in direct competition with the person, and that can make it hard. It can make it easy, because there's a ready market, but you can also make it really hard. And
because of first mover advantage. So that person,
that person is already in, that person is already doing that same thing. Now you're struggling for that space.
Absolutely.
That's not saying that if a person has already started a shoe business in your area, that you shouldn't think about starting a shoe business, but you have to think about it
innovatively.
Because
that's the new way of doing it.
How can I do this differently? Even better for me is starting something brand new. Again, if we go back to CSR in action again, it was a case of people saying at the time, businesses are not ready. People are not ready to have that conversation. They're struggling with, just even...
What does it mean? The business case and all that.
Like, as a business in general, just allow me first. Just let me file my tax return. Let me just manage to do that. Let me just manage to write my financial report before you start talking about
goodwill and impact
and responsibility. Telling me how I need to invest in such and such a social way in order for me to exist in the long term. Right. So we'll come back to more questions, but we're going to take a short break. I'll tell you the numbers before we go on the break, so you can start trying to reach us. It's 0700 923 93 93. Again, it's 0700 923 93 93. We'll be right back on the Good Citizen Radio Show.
The Aspire Coronation Trust, ACT Foundation, is a non-profit organization established to help local, national, and regional non-profit organizations working to address the challenges and associated vulnerabilities across Africa. Here, we seek to promote broad-based participation with other institutions and organizations aimed at building sustainable communities, providing innovative solutions to social, economic, and environmental challenges. Our vision is to leverage relationships to create effective social impact solutions across Africa, with the mission to build sustainable societies by engaging initiatives that unleash potential and empowers beneficiaries. At ACT Foundation, our interventions are focused on 4 key areas, which are health, entrepreneurship, environment, and leadership. At ACT Foundation, we believe that together we can make a difference. So, let's come together to make the positive social impact we desire in our world.
So, you're back on the Good Citizen Radio Show. I have Abosede in the house. Abosede, Madame la Directrice, I like to say that. And so we're talking about creating jobs through entrepreneurship. And at some point you mentioned the value chain. How important is this value chain in job creation?
It's very important, and again, we cannot overemphasize thinking through whatever it is that you want to do as an entrepreneur, because in thinking through that, you actually, hopefully, discover the value chain, right?
And take notice of that.
And take notice of that, and so that on your journey, you can pay attention to. Someone was telling me a story of her entrepreneurship journey today, and how she set out as a farmer. So she had farms, right? But unfortunately, she couldn't expand in the way that she wanted because she didn't have cash. But she realized that there were a lot of young girls around her who weren't doing anything, So she set up a skills acquisition center. Can you see how she went from, she wasn't stuck on, it must be this way, right? So she set up a flexibility, exactly. And so they started paying her, and she was teaching them all the things she knew about agricultural science and all that. So that's her knowledge. She monetized her knowledge. And from that, she was actually able to get 1, visibility, and then 2, capital, to be able to achieve what she wanted to do on her farm, right? So I think that it's very important to pay attention to all the different things concerning it, because value chain is a complex word. Some people don't understand it. But when we say value chain, is all the things that connect to your business that make it happen. So if you're going to produce something, you need raw materials. Who's producing that raw material, or who's giving you that raw material, right? Who's feeding into the end or the output of your business? Who contributes? And so you have to be paying attention to that, and not just to the fact that, oh, I'm a caterer and I cook. But, you know, where do you get your produce? What type of produce is it? Is it quality produce? You know, how is it stored? All of that, you know, should be your business because of the standard, for example, that you're trying to... It should
be your business. It brings to mind the discussions that big businesses tend to have these days around creating shared value.
Yes.
You know, creating shared value. It's not just a business concept for big businesses. It's actually what every entrepreneur should think about, because we've talked about entrepreneurship being, you know, innovation in some ways.
Yes.
You know, it's about thinking about these things, the complexity of business in a new way, and basically trying to make it work for you. And creating shared value is actually one way to not only create business for yourself, but to create value for others. And
then to create jobs.
And to create jobs.
Exactly.
And to create jobs.
Yeah, because imagine, I mean, people often talk about, for example, entertainment, right? That has an amazing value chain. So you just want to do one movie. But think about the makeup artist, and then the costume person, and then the video director, and then the sound and the writer, and the, you know, so that's a whole value chain that, you know, one person's idea or one person's concept then leads to people sort of, and oftentimes, you know, some people even develop new skills as a result of that one person taking a step. So I think it's very important.
And for that
in
one
the job
person's
creation conversation
business to keep on thriving, they have to treat those people in their value chain right.
Absolutely. And actually try as much as possible to add value, creating shared value.
Absolutely.
That's it.
For everybody.
Because if it's good for you, it'll be good for me. And if it's good for me, it'll be good for you. Yeah.
Because, I mean, it then brings us to the matter of branding, actually.
Yeah.
So if you are a business who refuses to pay your vendors or, you know, whoever else, your staff or whatever, it comes back and bites you in the behind.
Absolutely.
Right? Then you have a bad reputation in the market, and nobody wants to deal with you in the long term. So in the immediate, when they have no choice, they may come to you.
Yeah.
But in the long term, when they think about that person that makes them feel good, that person that they want to deal with all the time, it'll be you. So you have excellent service, you have quality service, but then you also have a great attitude towards it.
Yeah.
Now let's speak to tenacity. It's a tough business environment in Nigeria. It's a very tough business environment in Nigeria.
It is.
What is the value of tenacity in the face of what we face?
To be honest, so Nigeria is a tough business environment, but I mean, there was a recent, I think, TED talk around what makes people successful generally, including entrepreneurs, and the number one thing was grit, right? And this doesn't even apply to only our clients, right? It's across the world. So, to be honest, my thing is, it is tough, but somebody's doing it, right? So I think that we really need to channel our energies appropriately, right? It is tough. So we've established that, right? So pack that. And it helps innovation, doesn't it, right?
Yes.
You know, think about before sachets started. It was somebody's idea to say, you know what, let's put this thing in a sachet. We don't need to have this whole... Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
We don't need to have this whole team. Can we put in a sachet so I can just buy the one I need for today?
Sachet water. Let me give you a story about that. I have a friend from university whose father trained them through school, sent them to universities abroad.
Yes.
And now one of the children is working in one of the high-powered technology companies in the world. He lives in the UK now. I mean, we hope he comes back. This is the Citizen Radio Show. Return to Nigeria.
Yes.
However, they're doing very well because this sachet business started. And this man started it from his house, literally. Yeah. And then when he started it, he made sure that the people in his area had access to free water because, of course, he was creating potable water.
Yes.
And people used to come and fetch for free.
Yeah.
And this was it. He made it literally from that innovation.
Yes. And I mean, that's it. You know, that's really what we're talking about. And it's the multiplier effect of entrepreneurship that's beautiful for job creation. To be honest, you just don't know how far. And, you know, when we're talking entrepreneurship as well, remember that the technology startups actually fall in that category. And when you start to think about this, the technology startups, it's just the scale, right? When you think about our indigenous payment solution, Paga, right? They have just one, they have a few employees, but then they've got thousands of agents. Imagine if they never started, right? So those are the things that you start to think about in terms of scale. So entrepreneurship, especially when people go into it with knowledge and understanding, can be a really good catalyst for job creation and for creating shared value generally. I mean, see the story you're talking about. So people now have access to safe and clean water just because somebody in the neighborhood started a water business.
Absolutely. And as you were speaking to Paga, I thought about system specs, which is what we're using for our treasury single account. It was just an idea.
Look at that.
Let me just... So basically, it comes back to the notion of wanting to solve a problem, like you said.
I absolutely think
so.
That's
he thought, let me solve this problem. And guess what? Thousands of people are employed. The Nigerian government has a system indigenously created
to solve a problem as well in terms of curbing corruption.
So we'll take that one call before we go. Hello?
Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Ndidi. I should know your number off by heart now. How are you doing?
I'm good. And you?
I'm well, thanks. Ndidi, so what's up with your entrepreneurship journey?
Well. I don't know what to do yet, but I know I will do something. I don't know what to do yet. I have something I'm doing that by the grace of God I will round off next month.
Okay.
Then I might be able to, then I don't really know what to go into, but I know I want to acquire a particular skill of dressmaking. I want to learn.
Oh yes, you talked about it, but you started, right?
Yes, I want to learn how to do that. And besides that, I don't know what else.
But have you learned already to make clothes?
No. I want to start that after. And I'm finishing something that I started next month. I'll finish next month.
Did you focus on that one thing now? If it's this thing you're doing, I think you should focus on it. If it's dressmaking, focus on it. Because sometimes I will tell you for free that entrepreneurship is not easy. Yes. You would start something and it would just seem like it's not working.
I have a course that I'm running. Yes, I have it that I'm running that I will finish in August.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, then I will not start my dressmaking learning process. I'm very serious about it.
Okay,
because what I'm doing, I will not have any chance to go into that one at all. It's very time consuming. Yeah.
Just buy. Listen to me. Buy a sewing machine. Buy a pair of scissors. Buy some books. Sit at home. The days that you're home, start it. I always say to people, if you want to be, a surveyor, real estate, expert, print a card. Tell people this is what you are. And start it.
Just start.
Are you there? Okay, so Ndidi's gone. So that's basically it. It's very challenging starting anything new. It always seems like it may never work, almost always. For some people, it's easy. For a relatively small amount of people, it's very easy to start something up and it just runs. But then sometimes you start it up, it seems like it's great, and then a year down the line, it becomes tough again. And you wonder, and you think, I had overcome those challenges, but it doesn't always go away. It's always constantly challenging, and you have to have that grit that we talked about, and savvy and tenacity. So a learning for me that I want to reinforce for us, our listeners, is that, we have to remember that entrepreneurship is about innovation. We want to create jobs, think about innovative ways of creating the job so that basically the business is around for long enough to provide wherewithal for the people that you employ. There's also the emphasis on being professional and providing quality service.
And having structure.
And having the structure, the policies that you need, complying with government regulations. There's also the matter of flexibility. The way that you conceive it may not always be the way that you end up. So be ready to shift as reality hits you, right? And then tenacity. We cannot overemphasize that. You need to be tenacious in order to be an entrepreneur and to create jobs. Thank you so much, Bosse, for your
my pleasure.
As usual, valid contributions to this discussion. We'll continue with entrepreneurship next week. And I remind you that we're listening to the Good Citizen Radio Show. And remember to bring out the Oga in you with the largest pizza in Nigeria from Domino's Pizza. It's 16 inches of delicious cheesy pizza in any flavor of your choice. The Chairman Pizza, I can tell you for free, is the real deal. Okay, so for you to order a Chairman Pizza, go to dominos.ng and keep on listening to this discussion. Keep on following this discussion at Good Citizen NG on our social media handles. Thank you once again for listening to the show. My name is Bekeme. The show is produced by CSR in Action and is funded by ACT Foundation. Have a great evening and speak to you next week, Friday. Bye-bye.